They say the wind never quits in Redemption Creek. Even after all these years, it still sounds the same. Dry, tired, dragging dust down the street like a ghost, with nowhere left to go. That's how I felt the day I rode back in a ghost, half wanted, half forgotten. The horse beneath me was bone thin, the sky the color of old pewter, and my hands, they still smelled of gunpowder, no matter how many times I'd scrubbed them clean. I wasn't looking for forgiveness. Hell, I didn't believe in it much. I just wanted peace. Clara's kind of peace. The kind that came with soft words and the smell of coffee boiling on a wood stove. The kind that made a man believe maybe God hadn't turned his back after all. I saw her place before I saw her. The house still leaned the same way, like it was listening to the wind. The barn door flapped lazy on one hinge. Chickens scratched where once there'd been bullet holes. I stopped my horse at the gate and just sat there, watching smoke curl from the chimney, remembering the way she'd looked the night she saved my life. Hair tied back, eyes steady, a shotgun in her hands. I dismounted, boots sinking into red dirt that remembered my sins better than I did. The hinges creaked as I pushed the gate open. She came out to the porch, wiping her hands on her apron, and for a long breath, neither of us said a word. "You look worse for wear, Caleb Rains," she said finally. Her voice hadn't changed. Still calm, still clear, still full of that unshakable strength that once pulled a bullet out of my shoulder and stitched me back together. I took off my hat. Guess the years don't ride light. She nodded, eyes scanning me like she could see every ghost perched on my shoulders. "You here to stir up the past?" "No, ma'am. I came to bury it." That got a smile, small and weary. "Then you best grab a shovel." Clara put me to work fixing fences, mending what the wind and time had chewed up. I didn't mind the labor. Every nail I drove felt like penance, a rhythm to keep the noise out of my head. By sundown, my back burned, my hands bled, and for the first time in a long while, I slept without dreaming of gunfire. Morning brought a new sound. A small voice behind me said, "You swing that hammer like you're mad at the world." I turned to see a boy, no more than 10, barefoot, freckled, hair sticking out in all directions. He was chewing on a piece of straw, squinting at me like he was reading a wanted poster. "Name's Jake," he said. "Clara calls me Lil Jake. You the outlaw she talks about?" "Used to be," I said. He grinned. "Used to be's still something." I tried not to smile, but the kid had that spark, the kind that made you forget you'd ever been cold inside. He followed me all day, peppering me with questions. How fast could I draw? How many men I'd shot, if I'd ever been scared. I told him guns only bring sorrow, that a man who draws quick usually dies quicker. He just nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Boys like him never do. That night, Clara served stew thick with beans and silence. Jake chattered until his eyelids drooped, and when he finally stumbled off to bed, Clara looked at me across the table. "He needs someone to look up to," she said softly. I set down my spoon. "He doesn't need to be looking up to me." "Maybe not," she said. "But maybe you need someone looking up to you." Her words sat heavy between us, like the weight of a promise long unkept. Days passed. The town started to whisper. Folks remembered the name Caleb Rains, the man who once robbed banks and shot his way across 3 territories. Redemption Creek didn't forget easy. When I went into town for supplies, doors stayed shut, and eyes watched from behind curtains. I didn't blame them. A man earns his reputation the hard way, and he carries it longer than his own shadow. Then came Marshall Harker. I heard his horse before I saw him. The slow clop of hooves on dry earth, the jingle of spurs that once used to sound like the start of a war. He reined up outside the general store, dismounted with that same self-righteous air he always wore. Harker had been a lawman since the day I met him, even back when he was running with thieves. He just traded his gang for a badge. He spotted me across the street, and the corner of his mouth curled. Well, I'll be damned. Caleb Rains, breathing and free. Thought you'd be dust by now. I stood still. Guess the dust didn't want me. He walked closer, boots clicking sharp. Word is you're working that widow's land, trying to pass yourself off as a decent man. Just fixing fences, Marshall. That's all. He leaned in. You don't belong here. Men like you never do. I met his gaze. I ain't looking for trouble. Trouble's what you bring. He straightened his coat, eyes glinting under the brim. You've got till sundown tomorrow. Be gone before the wind changes. He turned and walked off like a man certain the world bends his way. I didn't follow. The next morning the sky hung low and mean, the kind that keeps the light from ever quite breaking through. I could feel the air tightening, like the world itself was holding its breath. Clara was quiet over breakfast. Even Lil Jake kept his voice down to a whisper. When I saddled the horse, I saw him standing by the fence post, hands stuffed in his pockets. You gonna fight him, ain't you? He asked. I'm done fighting, I told him. He shook his head. You don't get to be done. Not if folks still need you. That stung worse than a bullet. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that the best thing a man can do with his gun is forget how it feels in his hand. But the look in his eyes, half hope, half fear, made the words die on my tongue. By noon, riders appeared on the ridge. 3 of them, dust rising behind like a storm cloud. I knew those silhouettes before they were close enough to name. Brett Coyne, Sawyer Reed, and Tommy Leach, the last ghosts of the gang I once led. They came down slow, grinning, rifles slung loose. Caleb Rains, Brett called. Heard the marshal was sniffing round here. Figured you might be needin' company. Don't need none, I said. Sawyer spat. Funny, coming from the man who taught us to stick together. What happened, Caleb? Widows got your leash? Tommy laughed, high and mean. Ain't no outlaw quits, not for good. Their words were old echoes, the kind that make your blood remember who you used to be. I kept my voice low. Ain't here to fight you. There's nothing left in this place worth dying over. Brett's smile turned thin. That's so. Look to me like you found something. Maybe we'll just take it. His eyes flicked toward the house. I felt my pulse hammer once, hard. You don't cross that gate. They moved anyway. The world slowed then, same way it always did before blood was spilled. The wind pausing, sound shrinking, Every breath sharp enough to cut, I could almost hear Clara inside, telling Jake to stay low. My hand twitched toward the holster that wasn't there. The promise I'd made burned like iron. Brett raised his rifle first. Guess peace don't suit you after all. The shot cracked the silence apart. I didn't think, didn't breathe. I grabbed the pitchfork leaning by the fence and dove for the dirt. The bullet tore a splinter off the post above me. Sawyer swung his rifle around, but he was laughing like this was some grand reunion. Then another gun spoke, not mine. Sharp, quick from the porch. Brett staggered, dropped his weapon. I saw Clara behind the barrel, face white but steady. "Get away from my land," she said. The men froze, just long enough for me to tackle Sawyer. We went down hard, fists, dust, curses. Somewhere in the scuffle, Lil Jake screamed my name, and that sound, that small, terrified sound, hit me like scripture. I wrestled Sawyer's gun free. Time stopped. I could have ended him right there. All it'd take was one pull, one flash, and the story would end like every other I'd lived. But I saw Jake watching, eyes wide, seeing who I might become. So I threw the gun away. Sawyer scrambled, ran for his horse, dragging Brett after him. Tommy fired one wild shot that clipped the edge of the barn, then turned tail too. The whole thing was over in less than a minute. Dust settled. The wind came back. Clara lowered the rifle. I stood, chest heaving, hands shaking. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "Barely," I said. Lil Jake ran out barefoot, trembling but grinning. "You scared him off. You really did." I knelt and grabbed his shoulders. "Listen, Jake, you saw what happens when men reach for guns. Don't ever be that man, you hear? Be better." He nodded, eyes wet. "I will. I swear." When the marshal rode in later, he found nothing but 3 trails leading out into the desert, and a man too tired to explain. He looked at me, at Clara, at the busted fence. "You stayin'?" he asked. I met his gaze. "I reckon I am." He studied me a moment, then tipped his hat. Maybe this town's got room for one more soul trying to do right. And just like that, the wind took him too. That night, the sky finally broke open. Rain fell soft, washing dust from the porch, cooling the earth. Clara and I stood together under the overhang, listening. "Feels like it's been years since it rained," she said. "Maybe it just waited for the right day," I said. She smiled, small but real. "You think it's over now?" I looked out toward the dark where the creek ran faint beneath the thunder. It's never over. But maybe it's enough. Lil Jake's laughter drifted from inside, bright, careless, the way a boy's laughter should sound. For the first time in forever, I felt something shift inside me. Not peace, not exactly. Something quieter, like forgiveness breathing its first breath. I thought about the promise, the one I'd made to her years back, bleeding out on her kitchen floor. I'd told her if I lived, I'd hang up the gun for good. I hadn't understood. Then that a promise like that ain't about the gun at all. It's about what a man chooses to hold on to when the world goes dark. I reached for her hand. "Clara," I said, "thank you for not giving up on me." She squeezed my fingers. You gave yourself the chance. I just reminded you it was still there. The rain kept falling, steady and sure, beating time on the tin roof like a heart learning to keep rhythm again. And as I stood there, feeling the water wash away the last of the dust, I realized Redemption Creek wasn't just a place on a map. It was a thing inside a man. The hope that somewhere, somehow, he could lay his ghosts to rest and still hear the world sing.